Vaughn, you were at that news conference today. In addition to the Panama Canal and Greenland, Mr. Trump also said that he would, quote, use economic force to merge the U.S. and Canada. I'm wondering if that's a joke or for real. What did he say about each of these places?
No, Kate, it's actually a good question, and I'd like to think that's why I asked it, because when we were at Mar-a-Lago just a few moments ago, I started off my question specifically about Canada by saying, under the assumption that he was serious about suggesting that Canada should be a 51st state, to which he quite defiantly agreed that he was in fact serious and said that, well, unlike Greenland and the Panama Canal, military force should not be used. He suggested that economic coercion should be, saying that the United States doesn't need imports from Canada. To be clear, about half the imports that United States does bring in from Canada is oil and gas, but Donald Trump making the case 2 weeks out from his inauguration that essentially the crippling of the Canadian economy would lead to them wanting to join up and be annexed by the United States. I want to let you listen, though, directly to the president-elect respond to the question about Greenland, where his son was today. Take a listen.
We need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran.
To be clear, Greenland is a sovereign territory, an autonomous state under Denmark. But of course, for Donald Trump here, there are serious questions as to what military force would look like to take over and annex Greenland.
And Vaughn, on another topic, the president-elect also reiterated his pledge to pardon rioters who were convicted or arrested at January 6th, 2001 on the attack on the Capitol. What do we know?
Right. He is still not providing exact details about who among the more than 1,200 individuals who have either been convicted or pleaded guilty to charges for their roles in being part of the mob that descended on the Capitol on January 6th. And today, again, he was asked whether he would pardon anybody who engaged in violence or physical acts of violence against police officers, assault. And he would not provide specifics. Of course, there are 14 individuals who were also found guilty for unseditious conspiracy charges. It's not clear whether he intends to pardon them either. So he may issue a blanket pardon or he may not. But at this point in time, he is holding back from sharing specifics or specific names. Kate?
All right. Vaughn Hillyard for us. Vaughn, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.